What's up guys, my name is Milo from Downrange Bike Works. I work on a lot of bikes. I also see a lot of weird things come to the shop, particularly around the holiday season. In this video, I'm gonna tell you some things to look out for when you're shopping for a bike from a department store or online from some obscure brand that you've probably never heard of. Quick plug, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, it does help. I'm trying to grow this channel. Also, to keep alive during the winter, I'm adding merch to the website. Just got some new hats, check them out. They fit great, free shipping. Buy a hat, help out Downrange Bike Works. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys, I get it. I have 3 kids that are 11 years old and younger, and bikes are expensive even for little kids. They could be several hundreds of dollars, which is a tough pill to swallow. If you're buying a bike for say like a 5-year-old, you don't want to spend several $100s when you know they're going to outgrow it pretty quick. What a lot of folks do, and I'm not hating, is you buy a bike from a department store or you buy a bike from Amazon online. While I wouldn't advise that route, I get it. Bikes are expensive, and you can get a bike from Walmart for say a 12-year-old, a 7-speed for about 150 bucks versus say $500 from a reputable brand. Like, I totally get it. But you're gonna end up paying a little bit more for that cheap bike. And I'm gonna tell you how. When you're looking for a bike from a department store, the biggest red flag for me, and I see this all the time when I'm walking through department stores, I just kind of look around the bike area just to see what's going on. Professionals are not building these bikes. And yeah, maybe it doesn't take a professional to build a box bike, but there's some things that are missed. I've seen handlebars and stems that are backwards. I've seen spokes that are barely hanging on by a thread, literally. I've seen brakes that are completely assembled incorrectly. And you know, brakes are important, spokes are important, and the overall bike setup is really important. So when you buy a bike from a department store, which again, I don't totally advise, you're not gonna get the best product. It's more of a consumable product. You're gonna end up throwing the whole thing away in a couple of years. You know, I get it though. I would just strongly advise, first inspect the bike yourself. Even if you don't know anything about bikes, inspect the bike. If something's not right, you know, if you still want to buy it, fine, but you should get it checked out by a professional. You should have the bike in at a real bike shop for a safety inspection at bare minimum. And shops will either do this for free or there's a minimal fee. It's not a lot. You just want to make sure that that bike is safe. Here's the big difference. When you buy a bike from a department store, the department store essentially doesn't have anything to lose, whereas a local bike shop, their reputation is on the line. You know, if you've bought a product that you don't like from Walmart, you never go back to Walmart and you say, oh, I'm never gonna come back to Walmart. That doesn't happen. But when you buy a bike from a local bike shop, yeah, that happens. When you don't have a good experience, you go after the bike shop. That's just what people do. You know, they write a bad review or they call, you know, the service manager or the owner and give them an earful. Like, I get it, but you don't do that at Walmart. You just return the product, right? There's little incentive for the store, like a big store, and it doesn't have to be Walmart. It's Target too. It's, you know, you name it. Yeah, these stores don't have an incentive to hire a professional to put these bikes together, so they're oftentimes not put together well, and they're put together incorrectly. I advise getting it safety checked at a local bike shop at a bare minimum. At a bare minimum, if possible. If you're still gonna buy that bike and it's boxed, say you buy it online from Amazon, hire a professional to put it together for you. I can't emphasize this enough. I know I do it for pretty inexpensive. I mean, you're not building a bike from scratch, you're just assembling it. And really what you're paying for is the expertise to have a professional set it up properly, torque it properly, and ensure those critical components like the brakes are set up properly and are working so that they do what they're supposed to do. Out of the box, even if these bikes come mostly assembled, it doesn't mean they're mostly assembled correctly. If you're buying a cheap bike online, It's made in a different country where the quality checks are not awesome, if they exist to any degree, and you just don't know what you're getting. It doesn't mean it's a bad product. It probably is though. But it needs that extra eye, the extra wrench to make sure that it's done properly and that it's safe. The things that I've seen, again, the big ones are the brakes. These bikes come with extremely cheap brakes. No matter what brand it is, they don't spend on the brakes. And so if you get a bike with caliper brakes, mechanical caliper brakes, V-brakes, whatever, you want to make sure that they work, that they're set up correctly, and that if you're buying a bike for a kid, that they can actually squeeze those, that they can pull the lever appropriately. These bikes, and I'm making a generality, I know that, but a lot of these bikes, they're just not very user-friendly. I mean, the brakes are really hard to pull, and if they're hard to pull for an adult, or it feels like the kid is gonna struggle with this a little bit, they're gonna struggle with it. And you don't want that. You want your kids, or any kid that you're buying a bike for, to feel comfortable on the bike, to feel confident on the bike, to know that those brakes are gonna work when they press that lever. That's super important. I can't emphasize enough how cheap these bikes are made, so make sure that those brakes work. Also, give the spokes a squeeze. See if are they tight, are they loose? If they're loose and you don't know what to do about that, take it to a bike shop. I would do it for free, honestly. If someone brought it in and they're like, yeah, these spokes are loose, just fix them on the spot. It's the right thing to do. It doesn't take more than a minute or two. And then the bike is gonna work correctly. Because the problem with loose spokes, which it doesn't seem like a huge deal if you don't know a whole lot about bike wheels, a loose spoke here or there, the rest are fine, whatever, right? It's not fine because the wheel is floating essentially. So you think about all the spokes around the wheel, they are keeping that hub centered, and the wheel is essentially floating. So there's tension all around, and that tension has to be set in a certain way so that the wheel is straight, so that it's true, but also that you're not overstressing the other spokes. Because if you have an uneven tension on that wheel, those spokes that have too much tension or not enough tension, they're gonna struggle and you're gonna break some spokes and it could be bad. And you don't want that. And save yourself the money of having to have a cheap wheel rebuilt. You don't want that. Another thing is the bike fit itself. Again, some of these bikes are built incorrectly and you want to make sure that the bars are facing the right way. I know that seems silly, you guys. A lot of times the bars are not facing the right way and you don't know because they're flat bars, and the rise and the sweep are not major, but you want to make sure that it's correct. And you want to make sure that the stem is facing the right way. Again, something I have seen more than once, which is crazy. And the consumer, the buyer, doesn't even know, because unless you know about bikes, you might not know. So make sure that if something doesn't look like it's supposed to look on the website or on the box, just take it to your bike shop. If you go back to the store where you bought it from, yeah, you can return it for a new one probably, but that new one might have the same kind of issues. They come from the same place, they're built by the same person. It just might be easier if you bring it into your local bike shop. And if it's a good bike shop, they won't be annoyed that you brought a cheap bike into their shop. They should be happy to help. And if they're not, you need to look for a new bike shop, because ultimately the goal of a bike shop, yeah, it's a business, but the folks that own these bike shops, generally speaking, unless it's like a corporate bike shop, you know what I'm talking about, people care. They want to help you. They want to keep you on the bike. I know I would want to keep you on the bike if you're my client. My clients, my goal is to keep them on their bikes, keep them happy, and keep them coming back. That's the goal, right? For a place like Walmart, Target, and I'm not just saying those two names, I mean Amazon, you name it, they don't care. They don't care. You don't buy it, they don't care. If you don't come back, they don't care. But a bike shop does. They should be here to serve you like I'm here to serve my clients. So I know for me, For the holiday season, I'm ready to build some bikes for clients. I'm ready to inspect bikes, and I'm ready to make these bikes safe for clients. That's the most important part. And I strongly urge you, I'm not gonna dissuade you from buying a bike that it's within your affordability bracket. I'm not gonna dissuade you from that, because if that's what it is, that's what it is. I get it, I have 3 kids, but make sure it's safe. Make sure it's safe for your kid, for your spouse, for yourself, because these bikes from department stores and from online, generally speaking, they are not built well. They are not torqued to spec, and there's a lot of things that are wrong with them out of the box. So stay safe out there. If you're gonna save yourself a few bucks, save yourself a few bucks. You know, I'd rather you be on a bike than not be on a bike. But if you can swing it, buy from a reputable brand that you know is gonna be a step above, and generally speaking, several steps above a department store bike. What you're paying for with the department store bike ultimately is you're paying for your own bad experience. And you don't want that.